All right, so I'm here with my friend Roger.
I'm here with Mubin, and thank you once again. This is also partly going to be for a Postcard from Airstrip 1, but also your streaming channel.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to merge the two on certain issues.
Sure, so the news today, Starmer resigns.
Starmer resigns.
Good riddance.
Promptly. Good riddance. However, and good news in my view. But having just spoken on my way here to a couple of people I know who, like myself, are very pleased to see the likelihood that Andy Burnham is now going to become leader of the Labour Party. The big question is, how far to the left are Labour now going to go? How far are they going to depart from the present bankrupt Tory programme of a right-wing counterfeit Labour government? And what are the prospects for change within the Labour Party or outside of it? I think that broadly covers what we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
Now, before the election, you and I had slightly different views. I was saying that people should go out and vote and actively support Andy Burnham, even though I have some reservations about what's going to happen next. My reasons were mainly to defeat fascism and reform. That's been done, I think, beautifully in Makerfield. Brilliant to see them get their asses spanked. I am so glad about that. But secondly, to actually raise the game in terms of the possibility or not of a significant left-wing change within the Labour Party. Most people have been really cheerleading Andy Burnham. Most people are enthusiastic about him. Are on the left of the Labour Party in the sense that it's conventionally defined. I don't mean hardcore class struggle left like you and I, but sometimes in that case also. So in the next 3 years, if we see how far Labour moves to the left, I think then we have to then think, or doesn't, that will predicate how we strategise moving forward. Are we going to support a red-green coalition between the Green Party and Labour? Are we going to go for something more radical? At the moment, I actually don't know the answer to that because I don't know how things are going to be played out, but I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think when people talk about a party or a politician moving left or moving right in leadership, they often talk about it as if it's this arbitrary thing that's led by the personal decision-making of the person in power, right?
Good point, and the one I was going to bring up myself.
And so when people talk, people put all these hopes into Andy Burnham of nothing, basically. There's been no real assurances made, no promises made. If anything, we've seen consistent evidence of his lack of principles.
We've seen him capitulate on a number of issues.
Him changing his mind constantly. So what we've concluded is that Andy Burnham is very opportunistic, right? In that he's willing to change his position based on doing what will ensure his own power or the power of the Labour Party. So the question is, what are the forces that will be acting on him in government, right? What will be pulling him left and what will be pulling him right?
Yeah.
Right? Why is it that every government that when they come into power becomes more right-wing? Is this just like an iron law? Is this just something that happens because they're all evil? No, it's because they're being led by market interests.
Well, let's be honest. One of the interesting things about the last counterfeit Labour government is it did not enter on the left. It began laying out its game plan, even with a massive landslide victory, as being a right-wing reactionary party. We're lumbered with this stone around our neck, which is called the bond markets, and which is basically dictated by hedge funds and financial institutions, which makes us stay within budgetary constraints that were set up by a Tory government that knew it was going to lose. In other words, they inherited this time bomb of austerity, and they just went along with it. They did very few things that were progressive. Towards the end of the days, yes, they managed to shorten NHS waiting lists, but only at the expense of giving vast amounts of money to Palantir that should have been given to front level healthcare and not reversing the quasi-privatisation of the health service. They've done very little. Yes, there's some watered-down nod towards workers' rights and trade union rights and getting rid of zero-hour contracts, but it's all been very, very, very weak and on the margins. And even that was done begrudgingly, like the reversal of the winter fuel allowance and the two-child cap. So we actually saw nothing very much that was substantial coming from the last Labour government. The reasons for that is something I think we need to look at in a bit when we talk about why is Labour so reluctant to move to the left. What are the structural implications? What are the mechanisms that are preventing that from happening? But if we look at Andy Burnham being elected, to hear the hysteria coming from the right-wing media, and I only clocked a few headlines on the way here today, was by my Guardian. The Daily Mail is already shrieking that the left of the Labour Party, whatever left of the Labour Party remains, is actually calling for tax increases, and quite rightly so. And saying, I don't pick up the Daily Mail. And I would never buy the Daily Mail. And whining about, a tax U-turn will be yet another U-turn by a Labour government. Well, about bloody time too. If we didn't want U-turns in policies, we wouldn't have asked for a leadership contest. They had enough of their own. Let's remember, the Daily Telegraph, being a little bit more sanguine, maybe actually still wants a Tory government or maybe a Tory reform coalition, is saying that we're back to the old two-party system. Now it's Labour against Conservative, and that both Reform and Restore, and on the other hand the Green Party, are now finished. Well, that's an interesting contention, which we come to in a moment. But in reality, we've not seen any substantial evidence that Andy Burnham is prepared to move significantly to the left. It is likely that Josh Simons will be given a position in the House of Lords for giving up his policy, his seat, so that Andy Burnham could contest the election. This is the last remaining key figure in Labour Together, who will work day and night to keep Labour on the right politically. We don't know what will happen to Keir Starmer. Will he go to the back benches? I doubt it. Will he be elevated to the House of Lords and shut him up? Possible. Or will he be given a cabinet post? Which raises the issue possibly of foreign policy, because it's already been talked about that he might become foreign secretary. Well, I don't think his track record on foreign policy is any better than his domestic policies. But the big issue, which I don't want to hug this too much on my own,
no, it's all good.
is the structural changes that emerged from Labour Together and Labour Against Anti-Semitism, not only organising systematic expulsions of socialists from the Labour Party, not only contriving for Labour to lose, under Jeremy Corbyn, to lose an election against Boris Johnson and all the catastrophes that ensued from that, but actually bringing in dirty, opaque funding, dark money, think tanks, corporate finance, which now exceeds the trade union levy going into the Labour Party. And to what extent that has structurally changed the party, turned it from being historically a bourgeois workers' party, a reformist party, or not quite reformist in recent years, but with some nod to its historical links to the trade union movement, and turning that into another bourgeois party that is a facsimile of the Tories. And I think that is permanent and structural, and I don't believe that with all the good intentions in the world that Andy Burnham's going to be able to turn that around. Incidentally, I am quite happy to be proven wrong on that. I would be delighted if I was.
Yeah, I think when we as Marxists talk about politics, we're often talking about the influence of classes.
Well, we always talk about that.
And the influence, but making that explicit, right?
Yeah.
Is that unless the Labour Party is interested in becoming a party that fights for the working class,
yes,
which it has abandoned, and I've seen no evidence of that changing.
No, I haven't either.
If the Labour Party intends to be a party of capitalism, a party that manages capitalist decline,
yes,
it will be forced to make the terribly unpopular decisions that the bond market requires. Why Britain in particular? We have an enormous amount of government debt, and our government debt is very expensive compared to other advanced countries as a result of the mini-budget crisis.
Yeah.
You know? So unless you're willing to wage a class war against the capitalist class and make serious gains in that war, you're not going to be able to deliver on any promises. So this abstract left, pushing left, pulling right. No. This is about the influence that the classes have over.
I think you're right. I mean, I do agree with you on this one, even though I'm a bit more euphoric about what's happened in Makerfield. I think at the end of the day, because capitalism is in decline, because there isn't enough surplus value to sustain accumulation, there can never be a significant economic recovery. And when people talk about the economy growing, what they're talking about is one section of the ruling class in the financial sector being able to steal money from another section rather than create new wealth, which is not happening and hasn't happened for a long time. That bottom line, a government that is committed to managing capitalism, as you say, and managing capitalism decline, because we are living in a dying system, will not be able to deliver not only significant improvement, but no improvement at all. Whereas, when capitalism was superficially stable after the Second World War through fictitious capital, the working class got something out of it. They got the welfare state. You had a period of relative stability from the Second World War through to 1974, which was, it seemed the natural order of things that Keynesian economics worked, that maybe the class war was over, and then bang, and we're now living with the consequences of that.
Yeah, but as for Andy Burnham himself, he's certainly shown himself to be willing to be influenced. I just question how much influence the Labour Party, can really, as many of its most serious socialists have been expelled and many more of its serious socialists have left in disgust.
Yeah.
I don't really know what forces exist within the Labour Party apart from, slightly left-wing members of the PLP.
Well, that's it. I mean, the only names
if that's our hope, they haven't really proven to be up to the task in the past, and I see no reason for that changing.
No,
either.
I mean, you still you still got people like John McDonnell is still in there, and Diane Abbott's still in there, but although she keeps periodically getting suspended, they try to get rid of her by hook or by crook. Within the kind of parliamentary leadership, I mean, I can't think of many more people I'd even class as being on the left at all. I don't use this term soft left. If you're not committed to social transformation, you're on the right. And you might be on the soft right because there are worse people out there, but at the end of the day, if capitalism is in decline and the cupboard is bare, then I don't see how, even with all the will in the world, and let's face it, Andy Burnham was not part of the disgusting conspiracy that got rid of Jeremy Corbyn, which is why a lot of people we know like him so much. And he wasn't half bad as mayor of Manchester, let's be honest. I am not convinced, and you're even less convinced, that he can actually deliver real substantial change in the next 3 years. Which then brings me to the other issue, is if we see that bear in mind the Green Party is also not a Marxist party, although it has Marxists in it. And given Caroline Lucas's position that we should be now working towards a Labour Green Party pre-election pact, which I think she has talked about.
Yes.
Well, of course, it all depends very much on how far to the right Andy Burnham goes in the next 3 years. But assuming he doesn't, what would your position still be on that? Because I'm actually agnostic on it.
Yeah, I think it would be something to be very, very wary of, right? I think the opportunity, the possibility of this being done in an opportunistic way by the Greens is something that must be resisted, right?
Okay.
So...
Oh, you're giving up on them?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely not.
So that's the thing. This is the gamble. It's like, we have to compromise with Labour in order to be reasonable. Just in the bourgeois party. And so it's like, I now have a very low tolerance for this kind of thing.
Oh, same here.
That doesn't mean that electoral coalitions are banned on principle, because we can't go that far. But in answer to the question, do I think that a Labour Green coalition would be fruitful and not simply serve as another reformist stopping block? Eventually the time's not right now, we need to get out reform, we need to stop Trump, we need to do this, how many excuses for a lack of class independence, how many excuses for this endless cringing towards capital? If the Greens are serious about replacing Labour as the party of the working class, and I think that some of them, a lot of their cadre probably are, particularly the ones who, like us, originally had
high hopes for your party under Jeremy and Zara.
Zara Sultana.
Yeah, I think that that has got to be. We've got to see the Green Party substantially committed to taxing not only wages but assets. See them actually actually talking about at least expropriating the bond markets, talking about substantive public ownership, talking about redistribution of wealth, talking about public services being defended through taxation, not through public borrowing, which is a dead end. And we want to see some significant changes on foreign policy, because I think what is going to happen on that one, as you said in the past, Andy Burnham voted for the Iraq War. He hasn't really had a lot to say about foreign policy at the moment, at a time when, in actual fact, US imperialism has actually not achieved its objectives in Iran and is doing its damnedest not to admit that it's actually been defeated, but it has. But it's still looking at other ways of attacking the Palestinians and Lebanese, sort of enabling a ISIS Al-Qaeda government, Al-Qaeda government in Syria to that end. How much are they still going to talk about getting out of NATO and forming an independent European defence policy? We've got to see all those things, some movement towards that, even if it's compromised away. If they're not laying that out as their own strategic objective, then you've got to say, this is make the new boss same as the old boss. And I think it's going to be this is
going to be the battle in the Green Party about the future of the Green Party.
And boy, are we going to have that battle!
Yeah.
It's going to be really tooth and nail.
Because if the left, whatever that is supposed to learn its lessons from Labour, you have to fight to the death, to the teeth, right, for your party. Don't just go like, when we were in power, we expected loyalty from them, so when they're in power, we'll give our loyalty. It doesn't work.
It can't be unconditional.
You can't negotiate with these people.
It can't be unconditional.
It has to be on a class basis. The Greens, the success of this attempt for the future of the Green Party will be based on how much the Green Party can open itself up to the influence of the working class.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's looked to draw links with the trade unions.
Well, that's vital as well.
Vital,
we need to see that in the
right?
next. Yeah.
Irrespective of how, reformist, reactionary the leadership of those unions might be at the present time, it's about opening up yourself up to class influence of the working class, not the media, not the news setters, not the bond market.
No, absolutely not. No.
As for the two-party system, we've seen a Labour victory in Makerfield and a Conservative victory in Scotland as well. And so, you mentioned the Daily Telegraph announcing the two-party system is back.
Yes.
It never really went away. It was, the main two parties are saved.
Yeah.
This insane establishment line, right? The Conservatives and the Labour Party are both clearly in
they're
terminally spiraling decline.
They're in terminal decline.
What this shows, though, is that the process is not going to be, this uninterrupted decline into they will retain some support. They will retain a layer of loyalty from the working class. The Conservatives will retain loyalty from the bankers. What we're going to see now is an incredibly fractured parliament at the next general election.
And actually that applies to within the parties as well as between them.
So this is the time for class independence. This is the time where opportunities, the consciousness of, these are the two parties, we can only vote for them. This is the time to stand on our own two feet, to be bold about our policies, to be unashamed about our perspective as class fighters,
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, the other thing, of course, next week is the Media Reform Coalition. And the first time I ever heard Zach Polanski speak was at a Media Reform Coalition conference when I was still basically supporting your party. And I thought, wow, he's pretty good. And the fact that he's actually turned up and talked about the need to break up media monopolies, we want to see from both him and from Andy Burnham clear evidence that they want to break up the likes of News Corporation and the likes of the Daily Mail Group. And what we actually need to see in Britain is the expropriation of public ownership of media, but in the hands of self-governing trusts. We need an end to the plot to privatise the BBC. We need an end to the objectives of Paul and Larry Ellison to take over ITV and ITN. We need to see they already own Sky Television. It's flagrantly against the Monopolies Commission recommendations that anyone, but particularly a right-wing American tech oligarch, should control that amount of the British media or any media, or even if there were British oligarchs of that scale. That needs to tell me. We want to see evidence that the ZAC will go through on that, and that Andy Burnham will actually come up to the plate and say, yeah, we need to take concentrations of power away from the media. Another thing that Andy Burnham has talked about in that context is ending these obscene amounts of finance that go into the likes of the fascists of reform, from your man, I keep forgetting his name whenever I'm on it. It must be a Freudian thing. But what's his name? The guy who's based in Thailand. £9 million into the Reform Party to do what? To buy a place in government, a bit like Cecil King's military coup plot in the 1960s and 70s, where he proposed to bring in businessmen into government through the House of Lords, not elected, and give the crypto bosses and bankers and people like that actual control over politics directly without any intermediaries. The way to stop that is to stop any political party receiving massive donations from individuals. And I believe Andy Burnham was talking about making that limit £100,000. And I would like to see him held to that. Absolutely.
Who's this?
Andy Burnham has talked about
right. Yeah.
Has talked about capping how much money political parties get, because it wasn't until the advent of dirty Russian money into the British economy under once David Cameron agreed to the Brexit vote that we saw these massive amounts of money coming in. We didn't see millions of £8 million coming from this oligarch and this other person. This has only happened in the last less than 20 years, and it's, in terms of the decline of British democracy, it has played a major role. One of the big things that reasons why Josh Simons was trying to destroy the career of journalists, and the bugger's probably be in the House of Lords very shortly, was that the journalists were investigating where the money was coming from Labour Together. Where do they get these hundreds of thousands of pounds? It certainly ain't for the trade union movement, it ain't from individual subscribers. And there's too much dirty money in politics. And if Andy Burnham sticks to his guns on that one, that for me will be a plus.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately just not as optimistic as you are.
I'm not saying I'm optimistic. I'm just saying give the bugger a chance to see what he does, because it's deeds that matter. It's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. So let's see how good he is. And as I've said, if he just goes down the same path as Keir Starmer, I'll be the first person to call him out. But
well, in that case, I'll be the 0th person to do it.
But yeah, so apart from foreign policy, I think we've talked about most things on the Labour Party.
You mentioned some structural things. Did you maybe
the main thing about it is getting these structures that were created, like Labour Together, Labour Against Anti-Semitism, breaking them up. It's rebranded itself now. It's the same thing. These structures have to go. They have to be dismantled completely. And people who are part of that conspiracy have no place in any party that calls itself Labour. By which I mean, for example, Josh Simons and Morgan McSweeney and any other disciple of Peter Mandelson, and particularly people like what's her name, that awful woman, Margaret Hodge, who was a Zionist agent actually working with the Israeli embassy to undermine Jeremy Corbyn, but who has in the past actually helped cover up a paedophile ring at the South Vale care home in Lambeth, and obviously is bought and paid for as a result of that, just as Starmer and Mandelson were bought and paid for by the whole business with Granville Janner. And I shall be talking about that on a different platform. We talk about my novel that's coming out very shortly. But we need to... They were happy enough to chuck socialists and people of principle out of the Labour Party. It's about time the boot was on the other foot. Let's see if the new leadership, is prepared to do the same to these people. Because to my way of thinking, and I hope you're listening, Andy, to talk about bringing together all sides of the party, you're forgetting that a large chunk of the party has been expelled for no good reason, has been slandered as being anti-Semitic and anything of the sort. And there's 2 of them here, and there's Ken
many
Loach,
more, yeah.
and there's plenty more. There's Zara Sultana, there's Jeremy. There's all the people who had high hope, and many of those people are now in the Green Party, including ourselves. And start thinking about it. You want to get us back. You've got to, as Paul Maguire said, completely falsely in the Daily Mirror after the crucifixion of Jeremy Corbyn in the 2019 election. You have got a tall mountain to climb. And on that one, watch this space. We'll be talking about more. But in the meantime, we've got a book to talk about. That's a separate programme. Yeah.
So I think I'll be ending the stream. I do want to read out some... we've got some chatters. I think it'll be interesting. Linton here says, I don't think Burnham has many good intentions, just understands a smiley northern face sells bullshit better, in my view. Still a Labour Friends of Israel member and hasn't really moved an inch on foreign policy, and he's been so vague about his domestic policy. On our question about a coalition, depends who has the leverage. If the Greens aren't the ones with Labour's teeth to the curb, it just risks dragging the Greens back to fully blown neoliberalism.
That's a good one. I like the way they put that. That's well constructed.
Yeah.
Whoever that is. Yeah.
They aren't exactly a principled party, but if they can exert pressure on Labour to a very significant level, it could yield some positive results.
I think that is actually my position.
That is a very
That's pretty much what I've been saying. Yeah.
But it is a question for the future of the Green Party at the moment. I can't have full confidence that the Green Party will. Well,
this is one point. Just coming back. This is one point actually that the Green Party, in terms of being a party with a significant electoral base, is a new phenomenon. I know the Green Party has existed for years, but back in the 1980s, we never took them seriously. I'm sorry, Zach, but we didn't. A bunch of bloody hippies. There was no way we took them seriously. They have to deliver the goods if they're not going to basically fizzle out and disappear. Because if they do join into a coalition with a right-wing Labour government, or east or west of the Liberal Democrats, they're finished. They're finished. The people, the cadre who left Labour looking for social change will reconfigure.
Yeah. Well, we'll become demoralised at first. We should recognise also the damage that will be done throughout this process as well. When people build up illusions in people, this is why I'm so insistent on trumpeting about Burnham before his record shows his
I do see the logic.
I don't want to build up people's illusions in Andy Burnham.
I do see the logic of that.
Because it's very harmful to put... People have put tons of energy, Labour campaigners on the ground going, Andy Burnham, change for Britain, and it's all going to end in tears.
Yeah. We're in the woods of the Who, meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah. But there's been a good discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And we're going to start getting more specialist in the near future. We're going to be talking about media reform. We're going to be talking about the bond markets and why they've got the power they have, because that's a symptom of capitalist decline. You didn't have that much before the deregulation of the City of London in the 1980s. No one even knew what a hedge fund was until 1987. And we've got other stuff to talk about, foreign policy. We can talk about Iran, we can talk about Palestine, the global south, the unreported genocide in Sudan. It's all the legacy of the Arab Spring. Palestine is an ongoing issue. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But thanks for tuning in.
And good to meet you on the streaming line, and my other people on the other programme, because we combined the two. See you again soon.
Yeah.